What is up, Mrs. Borson and anybody else who could be watching this? I'm Isaac Starr. Today I'm going to review The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, what is this book about? It starts out with this woman named Hester Prynne who has this big giant letter A on her chest to basically show her shame to the town. She had committed adultery and she was now being shamed by the New England Puritan town. And while she's being shamed, there's this baby named Pearl who she's carrying around. Basically, this is the baby from the adultery. Here in the background is a picture of Hester Prynne with the now grown baby whose name is Pearl. Basically, Pearl turns out to be a demon child. So next we're introduced to another important character named the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale. Basically, he's a young, successful minister in the New England Puritan colony, but he's sick and he's dying. Roger Chillingworth is a newcomer to the new colony, and basically he's a doctor and he's assigned to take care of the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale, who is so beloved by the community. But as it turns out, Roger Chillingworth is the former husband of Hester Prynne, the adulterer. Roger Chillingworth then takes it upon himself to get his revenge upon his wife's lover, who is now in his care. Hester is now an outcast of the community for about 7 years because of her sins. After about 7 years, the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale finally confesses his sins, and he basically goes onto the scaffold where they humiliate people and shame them, and he dies. Where and when does this story take place? Basically, it takes place in colonial America and the New England colony. In the New England colony, sin is punishable by the state because it is such a religious town. One thing that is good about this book is that there's not very many characters, but if I had to pick a favorite character, I would probably go with Hester Prynne. It's kind of like choosing which adulterer do you like the best. I would choose Hester Prynne because she wears the letter A, she takes responsibility for her actions. All in all, she just seems like a good person that just kind of messed up at one point. If I had to pick a least favorite character, I'd probably pick the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale, just because that he adulterized but then blamed it on Hester Prynne for about 7 years and made her live with it. He didn't take responsibility for his actions. On second thought, I also don't like Pearl because she's the devil. Overall, my opinion about the book was that it's good. It was pretty easy read and it's pretty interesting, but there were a few parts that were a little confusing along the way. One confusing thing for me was, what was Roger Chillingworth really doing? Was he literally physically poisoning the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale, or was he just a representation of Mr. Dimmesdale's guilt, which eventually led him to die? It's a kind of an unanswered question for me. Also, in the middle of the story, the plot twist didn't really get me. I think the plot twist was supposed to be that the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale was the father, but I knew it all along. As soon as Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale was described by the author, how handsome, how great he was, and him being a minister, I thought, this has got to be the guy who is going to be the father of Pearl. Anyway, all in all, this is a very good book. If you want to pick it up, go ahead and read it. I would recommend it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you the next video that I do, which I won't do any more videos. Thanks. Roger Chillingworth takes it upon himself to get his revenge upon his lover. So where and when does this story take place? It takes place in, multitasking. Pearl is a demon child. So where and when does this story take place? I'm too big, this thing's falling apart. At this point, if I'm not mistaken, look at this box. This box is just crushed. This was a full box when we started. My butt just smashed that thing. Hester Prynne has a huge giant red letter A on her chest. I don't have a color printer. Saved by grace. Saved by grace. If I had to pick a list, what?